Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got Monday's NBA slate here for you. Just a little four-gamer on Monday here after a bunch of games on Sunday. We are not necessarily in love with sides or totals in this one, but we've got plenty of bets here in our best bets video, and we have a play of props up for you as well. So continue to follow along, like and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com, use the great odds finder tool that we have up there. Make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all these books giving us bets this season. Quick run through of Friday after a really, really solid week last week where we were blazing hot on Wednesday and Thursday after we came back from that Tuesday break. Now we are 69-53 on the season, up 16.1 units. Those best bets continue to drive us as we've got 11.15 units up that were there on the best bet. Still play a props up about 5 units as well. So feeling pretty good as we move into Monday's slate here. Nate, let's kick it off with your first best bet.
Yeah, I mean, this Monday slate, it seems like the NBA is trying to work into the in-season tournament returning tomorrow because they did not give you a lot of great matchups here. Full disclosure, yeah, if you're playing a side pretty much straight up or spread, it's the Knicks +8, which me and Josh both agree on, and that's his first best bet. Otherwise, I feel like you got to
9 now.
Yeah, you got to tinker around a little bit, and my first pick here is the Bucks. You know, we've been fading the Bucks, Mavs, Clippers. Clippers, Lakers, with profit the last couple weeks, but am going to turn around here on that. Am going to take the Bucks with Dame Lillard coming back to win. Chicago on a back-to-back here. Bucks win. Bucks score at least 115. Dame and Giannis both 20 points. Gets you plus 150. And I think you can go higher to 25 each if Alex Caruso is ruled out here. That is a huge difference for the Bulls defense. Patrick Williams is a little banged up. I don't think he's had much success containing Giannis either. And basically, I mean, it's just like Giannis has been on a heater completely alone in the last couple games here. And now he gets some help finally. And the Bucks, they're more secure. You know, it's like the Suns in the playoffs last year, where it's just Book and Durant combining for maybe 70% usage. That's exactly what we've seen from these guys. They haven't really worked off each other as well as you'd hope so far, but in the last half game they played together, Giannis had 38% usage. Dame wound up with 40% usage, and when Giannis was ejected. So, I mean, they're both over 31% in their last few games here. Some of that playing together. They both averaged north of 30 points per game against Chicago in their last 5 or 8 matchups. And the Bucks are playing faster at home, 4-1 straight up at home, 102 pace versus 99, averaging 116. So the 114.5 might be a little scary when you think about a Bulls defense can be good if they have Caruso. Again, Kobe White, massive downgrade defensively versus Alex Caruso. And the Bulls have gone over in 4 straight. Here, they just did give up 109 to a Pistons offense that is not particularly good. The last couple matchups with the Bucks have been skewed because Giannis actually missed both of them. DDR missed one. Otherwise, they've been a little bit better of a high-scoring affair. But I was looking at the over in general for this game because the Bucks defense is still just vulnerable. Jake Crowder's out. But I think the best way to play it is to back the Bucks offense and count on those two guys, Dame and Giannis, having like a 35% usage rate so that they get their points. Even if Caruso's in, I trust Dame to get 20.
It's a situation for sure. Like our guy, Simon, who we won't talk about too much, you got to play the number. And I think the number of in terms of the team total is a good spot because of the fact that the Bulls play over, like you said, on the road a bunch more. The wins is the only part that scares me. Is that weird to say that, like, the straight up? I mean, at home, I understand that they should win. I'm just so scared of this team. I think if it was on the road, then I would challenge you on the win. But, you know, coming at home, like you said, with a full squad at full strength, it's almost like when Giannis is the only option, then the identity is clear, and they're still searching for the identity that they have when they're full, you know, when they're at full strength. Either way, like, one of these two dudes has been able to carry them over this number pretty consistently to the point that you made. So I think they're still going to be good, especially if Middleton is able to give them anything at this point, which he's had a slow start, but obviously as he gets healthier, that's going to be better for him. So let's talk about the one side that we really feel somewhat comfortable with. We got it at 9 now for the Knicks against the Celtics at Boston. And I mean, you got to take the Knicks here. It's a huge number, and it's based on the fact that the Celtics wipe the floor with teams when they're at home. Maybe people think the Knicks on a back-to-back is going to be detrimental to them as well. But I would just point you to the box score of that game against the Hornets, where all of their starters played no more than like 28 minutes. Brunson and Randall included, even quickly coming off the bench, still getting less than 30 minutes. They didn't need anybody midway into the third quarter. And that's why the other guys were able to sit looking ahead for this game against a division foe that they always gear up for. You look at the way that they played them last year, they won 3 of 4. That includes both of the games that were in Boston. One of those, they were missing Jalen Brunson. Boston was missing Jaylen Brown in the other one, but it was still pretty evenly matched in that one. Both games they won, 2-point win, 3-point win. And there's some consistency there. There's points more so on the road for sure. The Knicks were much more willing to play at a bit of a faster pace in the games that they played with Boston, at least one of them especially. The other 3 were a little bit slower, but the offenses actually were clicking in Boston much more so than in New York as well. And this season, the Knicks come in playing a little bit more like Tom Thibodeau ball of the past, I would say. Towards the end of last season, definitely started to play with pace, a bit more space, a lot more transition hoop with Josh Hart out there to help get rebounds and start a fast break, as well as Jay Randall and a couple other guys that they have able to do that, like Quentin Grimes. This year, it's a lot less of that. I mean, they're back to the games averaging 109 to 103. They have the number 2 defensive rating in the league. Jay Randall, I know it seems like he's not bought in on defense, but he's the other reason besides Mitch Robb that like they're not giving up anything, not even just in the paint. Like they're not giving up floaters. They're not giving up the 5 to 7 foot shot either, as well as everything around the rim, and obviously avoiding layups and dunks and not even really fouling too much, sending the other team to the line. They're pretty much in the middle of the league there as well. So all of that is a result of more than just Mitchell Robinson being as good as he is right now. I think the thing that I look at dating back to last year and then what you can use coming into this season, including the first game of the season where they played each other and it was a Slabanaka to a degree at like 108, 104. But still, like even the way that it was last season, even when there was points, the Knicks were still able to limit the Celtics around the 3-point line more effectively than most teams. And that's not even the strength of their defense, but they can sell out, and they know that. They can definitely sell out on the shooters more than maybe most teams that don't have such effective shot blocking waiting for them at the rim, right? You saw that with Minnesota as well. Rudy Gobert reinserting himself as one of the best defenders in the league down low at center, finally limiting the opposing team's field goal percentage around the rim to like a really low percentage, whereas last year it was like near 70%. So I think that's a really good indication of what you're going to see in this one is the wings and the guards able to make sure that they close out on shooters with the ability to defend once those guys get into the lane.
Yeah, defense travels. It's why the Knicks were 29 and 17 against the spread on the road last year. It's why they were able to win in Boston twice. And it's just Boston is a scary team to go against when they're at home because the energy in that building gets really, it's like an avalanche. And when the Celtics start humming, they can easily blow teams out. But the Knicks just don't allow that to happen the way they play, right? This is like a real NFL look that like, look, game total under 40, good defense. Like they're not going to let the other team run away with it. They'll be in it. So yeah, I think the Knicks at +9, even though it's a rest advantage for Boston, I'm very comfortable taking that as the one side here. Toronto just lost in Boston and kind of got rolled over there, but they now get the Washington Wizards, no D there. So let's go over 229. I think it's an exploitable number when you have the Wizards as one of the sides here, and you might as well parlay it with the Raptors money line. Don't think they're going to lose this one. They're -10 at this point with the Wizards on a back-to-back. So that gets you +120, 125 maybe, depending on your book. And look, I mean, you could do another same game parlay. I didn't want to throw that out for both bets here, but Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam are pretty reliable for 15 points here, maybe 8 boards for Scotty. Scotty has been the hub for this Raptors offense and just really good at home. And the Raptors, you might look at their home scores and be like, oh, I don't know about an over here, but Minnesota, best defense in the league. Philly, best team in the East. Portland, a team that can't score and is just clunky and whatever you want to say about that matchup. Then they get the Bucks, who are struggling and playing with some pace. They scored 130 at a pretty slow pace. Just absolutely torched that defense. They did play at a 102 pace in their first home game here under new coach Darko. Their pace is up to 98 and a half under him versus Nick Nurse last year. They went over with Dallas and San Antonio by 17 points per game. So teams that want to get up and down, play a little more of the style that we know the Wiz play, right? Fastest paced team in the league, most assists allowed, second most points allowed, horrible rebounding team. That's why you got to like Scotty to get some boards and push and just get the Raptors out in transition, because their half court offense is bad. So they're gonna totally lean in, I think, to the fact that the Wizards want to get up and down and get shots up and say, all right, cool, that's how we can get our points and maybe get 120 ourselves.
Yeah, we're both looking at points in this one. The Raptors are still so befuddling to me, because if they don't get out into transition, then they just take the whole shot clock to score to get a shot up. It's such a weird half court versus transition, style of offense that they have. It's like two different teams playing in the same offense. I think Scotty's good for boards for sure. Maybe some Pirtle boards. He hasn't really been boarding up as much with the way that Scotty's just been attacking the glass. He's doing more of the sort of clear out for everybody else, Steven Adams style thing, where the other guys come in and get the rebounds. But either way, I'm just going to go right into my bet, because it's also attacking this game, and it's taking Dennis Schroeder for over 7.5 assists. I'm going to same game parlay it on DraftKings with the Toronto money line. Make sure you shop that. I had to do that last night when DraftKings was the only one with the odds up for these player props in this game. So there might be a slightly better SGP elsewhere, but the plus 104 on DraftKings was still good enough for me to take it at a full unit, because Schroeder with the 7.5 assists, the only thing that's a little bit scary to me about it is obviously the last 3 games and the way that he's sort of gone down, not only in his assists, where he's only had 4, 5, and 6 in the last 3, but also with the potential assists. They kind of dropped from about 15 potential assists per game, almost 15, to 13 in the last 3 games. So a slight dip, but it's also because he played way less minutes, because they got blown out in one of those games as well. And then we're blowing out another team in the other game. So the only thing that scares me was the Dallas game. He got 6 in that one, which was very close. Dallas still a much better team on defense, which sounds crazy to say, than the Washington Wizards, who are the worst defensive team in the league. Let's just say it. They allow the most assists per game to their opponents. They're allowing the most points per game. They have 117 defensive rating while playing at 105 pace. That is a lot of points a game, right? That's how you end up giving up 124 points per game. That would be, by the way, like the worst of all time, essentially, if they end with that number. So just want to be clear how bad that is. They allow the most assists per game to point guards. No real like knock on Tyus Jones. Maybe this is a bit of a knock on Jordan Poole, but you have 2 short guards in your backcourt. So guys are going to be able to do what they want, really, and you don't really have 2 defensive-minded guards back there either, pretty much at any point. So for Schroeder, like, I think he'll just continue to find guys wide open, both in transition and in the half court. Interestingly, one more thing to add to the sort of complexity that is this offense. It's pretty simple offense for Toronto, but it's hard to understand, because they have the most catch and shoot field goals in the league. Even though they prefer not to necessarily have a half court possession, when they do get there, they find catch and shoot shooters, and they shoot the most of that type of shot. They have the 12th highest field goal percentage as well, which is pretty good when you're shooting the most of them. And I think that's what you're going to be able to find for Dennis Schroeder here. Washington allowing far and away the most catch and shoot opportunities for their opponents, and the 5th highest field goal percentage as well, because they scramble on defense. It's all just really disorganized in a way that once you get them imbalanced, like, you can pretty much get whatever you want at this point against them. And lastly, Schroeder, he does have about a 10, his adjusted assists, right, is basically a number that you get when, if guys were shooting at a field goal percentage that was a little bit more average, because they're shooting below average for him. If they were shooting at average, he'd be averaging 10 assists a game as opposed to the 8.3. So I still think there's a possibility for some uptick here.
The Wizards are like a skit from semi-pro at this point, right? They open their season with a fashion show. They're like, you could literally like make Kyle Kuzma a character in that movie, and he'd be like strutting around on the runway after scoring, and just let his man score and just be like, whatever, I look good. So to me, that's why I like Siakam. I like kind of getting ahead of the curve with him. He's starting to find his rhythm after a really slow start. Averaged 29 a game his last 4 at home against Washington, posted a 36.5% usage rate against Boston last time out. If I was going to parlay with the money line, I would probably go with him 20 plus or 25 plus, just because Schroeder, when you actually have to run offense to get something going, he's gonna be the point guard for sure. But maybe you don't. Maybe like we're saying, it's just like transition tissue paper. Just give Siakam the ball, let him go right to the rim. So that's the only thing that makes me nervous about getting assists is like you're not meeting any resistance.
Yeah. There was no way to get this number down and still get any juice, even if you parlay it with anything. You either have to just take the 9.5, which I thought about doing, not just taking the Toronto spread and then, getting his assist down. Cause I think he's definitely getting like at least 5 or 6. The 8 is a bit of a scarier number when there's a potential for the blowout factor. And like you said, Scotty Barnes keeps eating into his assists. Perhaps Siakam is a better play as well, but we press on. I put a little bit on Schroeder. I'll probably add to the Siakam part of it with you as well. But that is all the time that we have for you guys in this one. Check out the play of props we have up for you as well. Like and subscribe to that page. Until we see you next, happy betting.